Okay, yeah, looks good. All right, so we will be talking about leveraging your LW skills um, for getting some of the very top tier Salesforce developer roles if you are a Salesforce developer. So in case you are a champion Apex developer with most of your coding experience in Apex and do not have much hands-on on LWC, the Lightning Web Components, you may still be missing out on the top tier Salesforce developers. You may be doing good as a Salesforce developer, but you may be missing out on, some of the uh, senior developer architect kind of roles. And it would also happen that you would feel that the top Salesforce developer roles may start feeling a little bit out of reach for you if you're not that much into the LWC Lightning Web Component. So in reality, the developers who grow fastest, earn most, and move into the architect level roles are the ones who master LWC along with Apex programming. Having good knowledge of LWC is extremely important to grow your career as a Salesforce developer or an architect. So LWC is essential. So while Apex is important for any Salesforce developer, but at the same time, LWC is also very critical and it's very important for you to grow in the career. So in this video, I am going to break down why Apex alone isn't enough anymore and how LWC can accelerate your career dramatically and the exact steps you need to move into high impact Salesforce roles, the senior Salesforce roles. So yeah, so let's quickly get started with a bit of a reality check. Let's ask the start with asking a small question, the basic question. Is just being good with Apex code sufficient for your career growth? A very important question. So let me help you understand this. There was a time when Apex was the must-have skill. If you knew triggers and classes, you were considered a solid developer. But the Salesforce job market has changed drastically over the years. So it has changed a lot. Okay. Today there are too many Apex only developers. There are a lot of people who know Apex development who can write Apex code, right? So almost every beginner starts with Apex code. So anyone who is new to Salesforce, the moment they start, learning Salesforce development, they start with Apex code. So that's very common, right? So with this, what has happened, there is a huge supply of Apex developer, people who know Apex and who are good with Apex programming, and also to a certain extent because LWC because Apex code is also very similar to say Java or a C, C++, which a lot of people actually would may have done in their college, etc. So building that skills is simpler comparatively. So a lot of Apex developers are available. Okay, and this huge supply has reduced the value of Apex only developers. Again, I'm talking about Apex only developers. I'm not saying Apex developers in general, but if you just know Apex, if you're good with Apex only. So yeah, the value has to a certain extent reduced. So that is the thing. Now, on top of that, the industry has shifted to the new modern web standards, which would mean that the companies expect their Salesforce apps to behave like high performing web application. Nowadays, you understand everything is on internet, everything is on the web, everything is on the digital platform. So companies do expect things to be on the digital platform. They expect uh, what do you say, an enhanced experience for their end users. End users can be their customers, can be their internal employees. They want things to move fast, right? So companies expect their Salesforce apps to behave like high performing web applications, which are fast, interactive, responsive. So that's the expectation that the companies have. Now, this requires front-end excellence as well. So, just having knowledge of Apex may not be sufficient. Front-end excellence would also be required. So, and this is something that front-end excellence is something which Apex cannot do. Of course, Apex is a back-end programming language, right? So now this is where the big shift lies. UI and user experience now directly influence the adoption and the business outcomes. So businesses really are keen about what sort of user interfaces we are building, because that kind of controls what sort of an adoption would be there from the users, the end users, right? So that is there. And in addition to that, of course, Salesforce has also introduced the experience cloud capability, which also lets companies build the communities for their end, their customers and partners, etc. So again, that's one area where a lot of UI, user experience related concepts come into picture. So eventually, what has happened is companies want developers who can build these seamless, intuitive interfaces, and not the developers. Of course, they need developers who can write business logics, but they just do not want to restrict themselves to developers who can only write backend logics, because there is considerable amount of work which needs to be done on the front end as well. So that is the thing. And that brings us to the Lightning Web Components related related concepts, and the importance of upskilling yourself into LWC. And again, not just writing LWC components, or sorry, not just building LWC components, the basics of it, but understanding a little more into LWC, understand the Lightning Web Component framework, how it works, build complex user interfaces, etc. So that's something which is very, very important if you are really looking for growing up the ladder in this particular track of the Salesforce developers track, right? So now the next question that immediately comes to the mind is, why is LWC such a game changer? So we just spoke about how companies are looking at uh, you know developers who can write backend logics, but also can help them do some sort of work in the on the front end. So that's there. But now, how is LWC a game changer, in these kind of requirements that the companies have? So first of all, LWC allows faster development cycles. So LWC basically helps you with reusable components. So the overall development cycle for LWC, even if when we are talking about the front end development, the overall development life cycle with LWC is a lot more faster as compared to what you may have done with the generic front end development um, tech stack, whatever is available, right? So if you're doing a simple HTML, JavaScript, CSS, completely purely using those, possibly your development process is going to be slightly more slower. But with LWC, it's quite faster. So it has got a lot of reusable components. Modular design is there. Clean architecture, is there, which means you can deliver features much faster. And this the speed is something which matters a lot for the companies. And of course, the speed is something which matters for your career as well, right? So that's one thing. Now secondly, these developers with LW skills get paid more. This is important, and this is actually a reality. So if a company is getting a developer who is really, really good with LWC skills as well, so they usually tend to offer higher salaries to those developers. So these developers tend to get more, paid well, or more than just a usual Apex developer. Um, and the logic is same. You have got Apex developers. If I have to put it slightly differently, I would put it this way, that Apex developers are almost available everywhere, but good LWC developers are rare, and not everyone is good with LWC development. While some basic concepts may be there, but yeah, doing good quality LWC development is a desired skill, and these developers are rare. And in the job market, as you understand, uh, rarity equals value. So more value, and then more salaries, etc. So that of course is one of the factors. The next thing that is important here is LWC helps solve real business problems. Just think about it. Multi-step guided screens. if you're trying to build a multi-step guided screen for some sort of a process, or think about dynamic forms, think about custom data views, think about uh, custom validations only on the user interface. Think about having interactive dashboards. These are, real world problems, and LWC can basically help you solve these things. So that's where LWC, comes into picture, and that's where the experience in LWC also matters. The next important thing is, and this is possibly, one of my favorites. That LWC helps you build your architect skills. How does that happen? So LWC forces you to think like an architect because there are multiple things which are associated to LWC. So in a way, it's always going to be pushing you to think like an architect. You cannot be just uh, thinking about one particular aspect when you're working with LWC. When you build with LWC, you naturally start understanding component-driven architecture. Automatically, you start understanding event communication, how the components are communicating, using events, etc. You start thinking all of, automatically you are bound to think about front-end performance. So, you cannot be building screens or user interfaces which are very slow. So you will definitely need to think about performance. You will need to think about data interaction. So, you will need to think about front end, back end, sort of a concept, server side, client side. So those things, you are bound to think about those things. All right. And these are the skills that push you towards senior developer or lead developer or architect kind of a role, and eventually technical architect roles as well. Right. So in short, if I have to, summarize, I would say LWC makes you a complete developer and not just a programmer. So you are more of um, thinking as a complete developer architect rather than just thinking like a programmer knowing the syntax and writing the code. No, that's not the case, right? And now let's think about going a little beyond this. So still so far whatever we have just spoken mostly on LWC component communication between your components, etc. But yeah, along with it, so just knowing LWC, will that help you, grow in your career? Of course, LWC gives you a lot of advantage or a lot of edge. However, in addition to that, you should also try to, if you're really, looking forward to uh, grow your career as a Salesforce developer, become a successful Salesforce architect, maybe you will also need to possibly go a little beyond this as well, and you will also need to consider or understand a few more aspects. So you will need to build your skills beyond these components. So if you really want to grow into more senior roles into the development architectural kind of a things, Apex alone will not help. LWC alone will also not help. Apex plus LWC will also not help. You need a little more. So what else do we need? So I've listed down a few things here. So first of all, integrations. So yeah, most enterprise Salesforce projects integrate with APIs, middleware, external systems. So when you understand how LWC communicates with Apex, how to work with APIs, and how to structure integration patterns, etc., you become a high value engineer or a high value developer. So if when you start understanding those aspects of integrations, integration patterns for what sort of integration, which pattern and all, so that is going to be a very important skill, of course. The next skill that would be important, or that would be really helpful, would be the data modeling skills. Again, while it may sound very simple, but I have seen a lot of experienced developers do not understand the data modeling that well. Data modeling again does not, I'm not talking about, okay, fine, do you understand existing objects, their relationships, fields, etc. No, I'm talking about, do you really understand how should you plan a data model if you are building something from the scratch, if you have to include some additional entities in your application. So that is the thing. So, and especially if you are also again trying to, uh, get more skilled into LWC, with from a LWC perspective, also a great LWC developer understands the data model, behind the UI. So just understanding the front end will not help. You have to understand the data model as well. You'll need to know how to structure objects, how to avoid performance issues, how to ensure data security, the limitations of the queries, etc. How to write, the queries. So to some extent that as well, and that you can do only if you understand the data model really well. Okay. Uh, and then next aspect is of course the security. Security is a big concept, and it's very important concept actually for everywhere wherever we are. Uh, Whatever we are building, security is one of the most important things, right? So one or two lesser functionalities would work, but we cannot certainly compromise anywhere on security. And Salesforce has got so many options for controlling all your security stuff. Like, you have got field level securities, you have sharing rules, you have got your CRUD permissions, which are given through your permission sets or profiles. You have got your manual sharing, record sharing, mechanisms are there. So all these things are there. Uh, good understanding of those, good understanding of um, how do we control the overall security mechanism in Salesforce is also going to be very, very important. And of course, understanding the APIs which are available within Salesforce, those are also important. And in addition to that, you should also understand things like, maybe, having good knowledge of flows, Omni Studio, headless APIs, platform events, streaming APIs. So, all these things would, you know, help you build a powerful end-to-end solution. So if you understand these concepts as well, this is going to basically help you build a powerful solution and an end-to-end solution. So not just one piece of that particular solution, but overall end-to-end solution which can be used, right? So this is where if you have got these skills, this is where you would stand out as a developer and you would more be approaching towards the role of an architect. Okay. So yeah, so getting back to the LWC part of it. So now let's quickly talk about the roadmap to LWC mastery. Now, if you have already understood that it would be good for you to have LW skills. Now, where do you start? How do you start? And how do you start building your skills on LWC? Okay. So let's quickly talk about the roadmap. So the roadmap, I would say the first step for you would be to start mastering the fundamentals of Lightning Web Components or LWC. So mastering fundamentals will mean learn some of the core concepts like how to build components. Think about the properties, attributes, events, wire adapters, lifecycle hooks. Understand what are the different lifecycle hooks, how are they used, etc. Conditional rendering, imperative apex, and all such similar concepts. So all these components will help you build a very solid. These will help you build a very solid, I'd say, foundation. To uh, build your skills in LWC. So these are very important. All right. This all will help you build your core foundation. So this is going to be the core foundation. Okay. Now the next step would be once you are good with the fundamentals, the next step should be build some real projects. Real project again does not mean that a project has to be a big full-fledged project. It can be a small interface that you are trying to build, but let it be a little bit realistic sort of thing. So try to build things like, uh, sorry. Yeah, so you can try to build, things like some multi-step wizard. So based on the knowledge that you acquired in your core fundamentals, utilize those skills to, build things like multi-screen wizard or a multi-step wizard. Custom lookups can be built, dynamic forms can be built. Uh, Try to build data tables, try to build dashboards, try to build interactive dashboards. So those things can be built. So try to try to build these things using the core fundamentals that you developed. Okay, and if possible, if at all possible, put all of these whenever you have built something. If try to put these in GitHub, because it will help you share this with any of your recruiters. So if you're trying to switch job, recruiters would love to see, something that you have already built, some of your live project work, that would be a big advantage. Okay. The next thing that I would suggest is try and get certified. So, it would be really good. Certification obviously adds a lot of value to your resume, at least if it if not day-to-day work, but at least it adds a lot of value to your resume, to your profile. It gives that kind of a confidence to the recruiter about your profile. So see if you can get certified, and specifically, these two certifications, the Platform Developer 2 and JavaScript Developer 1. These certifications are going to be quite handy or quite useful, and it would obviously put a good impression about your skills in LWC. These certifications tell companies that you understand both the platform and JavaScript fundamentals. So, yeah, these certifications, if you can do that, would be great. And then, yeah, of course, prepare for interviews. Try to, focus on concepts like, uh, important concepts which may be required for your interview. Things like um, anything. I mean, the important, I would say life cycle hooks is one concept which is very important from an interview perspective. You can have interview questions around communication between the components, that can be important. Concept around caching, concepts around error handling, concepts around the front end performance, what the best practices, how does LWC connect with Apex code, what are the different ways, understanding the different types of adapters. So these are going to be definitely uh, you know uh, useful concepts which you can prepare for your for the interviews. So this will help you, move from a basic Salesforce developer to a Salesforce developer who companies would really love to hire, right? Um, and yeah, Y- And of course, when you're working on these things, one more important thing would be to show your work. So if you're doing something, see if you can basically talk about that work, not just within your company. Of course, do it within your company, but also see if you can do that outside the company. If you can share, if you have done something really good, you have done a certification or you've built something, not your project related stuff, of course, because that's confidential. But if you have, for your learning, if you have built something, let's say you've built a calculator using Lightning Web Component, so possibly, try to share capture a small video of it, try to share it on LinkedIn or something like that. Yeah, it gives you a lot of confidence, and it also, helps you get noticed by some of the recruiters. So that's a good thing. So now, let's com quickly come to and talk about some of the final thoughts on this. So while again, I started with this thought. So while Apex is very important and it will continue to be very important because it's the core programming language which is used in Salesforce, kind of used for a lot of backend logics that we write in Salesforce. But just knowing Apex or being good with Apex alone will not get you some of the top roles in Salesforce. So yeah, that's something which is uh, sad but true. Yeah. And if you want better salaries, more ownership, leadership opportunities, high impact projects, and kind of a path to become an architect. Of course, if most of the developers will have some, I would say, some objective that at some point of time, they would love to become an architect. So if you are willing to basically get into that role, then of course, you cannot do that without mastering LWC. It's going to be one of the most important skills that you will have to build, and you'll have to develop. So it's not an optional skill anymore. Earlier, it used to be one of the optional skills. So, companies still used to look for people good with Apex development and okay or average with LWC. But now for senior roles, for, good developer roles, I think it's not optional anymore. It's extremely important. So the developers who understand both backend and front end are the ones companies would like to hire, especially for senior developer roles, or even for architect roles. And you can absolutely become one of them. So it's not difficult again, to become an LWC developer. You can start your journey. So I just gave a little bit of overview on how you can start. So you can start your journey, build, learn, experiment, um, share whatever you're building, um, and yeah, you can of course start growing that way. So I'm planning to basically make a few more videos on LWC for those who are actually beginners or planning to learn. So yeah, you, of course, you would find some of that coming your way in coming days. So stay tuned. Yeah, and feel free to share it with anyone who you feel may find this useful. Thank you, and I'll speak to you soon.